Hey everybody, Michael Snyder, Pacific Northwest Weather Watch. Today is October 27th, and right now we're looking at the infrared satellite imagery. Here's Alaska, BC, Washington, Oregon, Pacific Ocean. Here goes our system moving through the area today, mainly just a Category 1 atmospheric river for most locations. We'll take a look at that in some detail. Here goes Saturday night and Sunday system across the Aleutians organizing out here. It's going to be a bit stronger across the region, bring more precipitation, mostly beneficial across the region here. And I want to address atmospheric rivers a little bit here. So atmospheric river is a legit meteorological term. It is nothing to be afraid of. It is only to give a descriptor of what kind of vapor transport moves across an area based on duration, so we know what kind of impacts to expect. Nothing to be afraid of. It's not a media hype term or anything like that. So I hope we can all just get on the same page and learn to accept the terminology. Now, taking a look here, wider view here, you can see a few lightning strikes might move towards the West BC coast this morning, so you might hear a clap of thunder there. But here goes our next system out across the Aleutians here. It's going to blast into the Pacific Northwest Saturday night into Sunday here, and then potentially we may move into a cooler pattern. Some of the models are in disagreement with that as we go through the extended. We'll take a look at that coming up here. Now, looking at Seattle, 6 straight days below average here, 53, 57 average high. No rain yesterday. That's going to change today, though, as we go across the area with much precipitation, especially for the mountainous areas. We'll look at that in some detail. Here's a day one excessive rainfall outlook. They are talking about the Pacific Northwest and our potential for some flooding across mainly burn scar areas here. But again, these rainfall events right now should be mainly beneficial as far as we are concerned as of right now. But they may put out one for the Sunday system. We'll see how that goes. Now, I showed this yesterday, atmospheric river, vertical cross section here. You can see the strong horizontal water vapor flux. If you're looking from west to east here, say you're standing out over the Pacific Ocean, or if you're on a boat or whatnot, and you're looking towards the Oregon coast or BC coastline here, you can see this goes up to about 11,000 feet. And you can imagine this tongue of moisture hitting the coastal range or the Cascade Mountains. It's going to get wrung out pretty quick. So it has a big play in where rain shadows set up, for example. You can imagine this slamming into the southwest slopes of the Olympic Mountains, and it leaves places like Port Angeles and Sequim high and dry as they get rain shadowed big time by a system like this. So these atmospheric rivers a lot of times drop most of their moisture west of the Cascades through BC all the way down through Oregon. So nice little graphic there. Now taking a look here, this is the European control ensemble versus the European deterministic on the right. So here goes the system today, kind of weakening as it moves down towards Oregon there. Next atmospheric river starts rolling through here on through the day. Sunday hangs out for a while there as we go through Tuesday, finally kicking out of here. And then another one sets up as we go through mid and later next week. Good agreement here with the models, right? But now look at what happens here. Is this, you can see at hour 240, starting to bend this atmospheric river across Pacific Northwest again. But the European control says, nah, I think we're going to start to bring some cold air and some upper level lows across the region. So you can see a little bit of discrepancy as we go through the extended. But for the most part, the signal is we are going to remain active through the extended. Now taking a look here, the European ensemble mean on the left, the GFS deterministic on the right. Pretty good model agreement coming up here with the atmospheric rivers and the polar lobes moving across the area. Look at that, 156 hours, really good agreement there. And then we start to get a little bit of differences going on here. You can see the GFS try to throw this transient ridge into the mix here, while the European definitely much more of a northwest colder flow. But then the models agree that the trough is going to remain open across the northwest portion of North America here on in through the extended, which of course gives confidence to that very active extended forecast here through early November across the region. Here's the HER3KM, just kind of highlighting where the winds are supposed to be today. There's a wind advisory up for the North Washington coast and for the interior. Again, mainly across water areas along the coastlines and whatnot. A little bit of a mesoscale low here going to form on the northeast side of the Olympic Mountains, but you can see some gusty winds up towards southwest British Columbia here as well, and probably up towards the Strait of Georgia and for the higher terrains especially. Now taking a look here, you can see this is 925 millibars, 2,500 feet. You can see the warming here on the northeast side of the Olympics. The wind is flying over the Olympic Mountains here, sinks and compresses and brings that little mesoscale low here. It causes some warming near Port Angeles and Sequim. You can see it there, and then just get wiped out as the colder air starts to move into the region. Kind of an interesting feature that occurs on the northeast side, north and northeast side of the Olympic Mountains. Now taking a look here, the European calling for similar wind gusts, 49 Bellingham, maybe up to the 40s for Vancouver here, Strait of Georgia, northwest coast. Not as windy here on the European model. NAM 3KM showing it windier for the northwest coast and similar wind speeds across Whidbey Island, San Juan's, Bellingham area. Maybe just blustery down to Seattle, 36 miles per hour, not out of the question. You can see total precipitation in inches here. Let's let this run out. Here goes our first system. You can see it weaken as it gets down towards Oregon. Sunday system here, you can see spread precip all the way down towards California. They could really use this rainfall across the Sierra Nevada here, and for the interior portions of the West, we really love this rainfall as well. Look at some of these precipitation amounts as we go through early November for Northeast Oregon, Idaho Panhandle, Eastern BC getting in on the action. But look at some of the west slopes and some of the Cascade Range, coastal ranges really getting a lot of precipitation here over the next 10 days or so. So we'll just watch these systems roll in, get your rain gauges out, and count this rain as it falls, everyone. Now taking a look here, this is the European ensemble control 850 millibar temperatures. This is the one that showed that colder air moving into the region. So you can see, first of all, there goes Sunday system. You see that tongue of warmer air? That is that atmospheric river coming in on the day Sunday. And then you can see some cold air come down across the region, another atmospheric river, but this one kicks out quickly on this. And you can see the colder air starting to build its way down into British Columbia here and impact some areas of the Pacific Northwest, keeping us active here and potentially much cooler across the region. Good for mountain snows, definitely. Now this is Whistler here. You can see the transition as these systems roll in as the freezing level goes above the surface at the ski area there and then drops down below, bringing some snowfall, then a little bit of melting, and so on and so on. Pretty typical for the Cascade Mountains. The snowpack up there is usually known as the Cascade Concrete. As it melts, gets wet, and then it refreezes, then more snow falls on top of that. You get all kinds of crazy layers in our snowpack here across Pacific Northwest, usually very moisture-laden snow as well. Look at Bellingham. You can see, look at a lot of these ensembles calling for 50 mile per hour gusts up there, and then a little bit breezy again with the next system as well. So heads up if you're up there, especially on the waterways up in the northwest interior. This is Vancouver. Gusts probably up into the low 40s today as well. And then maybe another gusty period coming up here for the next system as it rolls through. Whidbey Island, no exception. Good model agreement there on the ensembles here. Mean is in the upper 40s. Long Beach up on Vancouver Island, again, it's the low 40s. Probably get some gusts out there today. Not bad. Bellingham, this is the deterministic that did not show as much cold air through the extended move-in. So you can kind of see that reflected here. So we'll just go ahead and watch that in the future, but pretty seasonable temperatures here rolling through the end of October into early November. Boise, you can see the potential cool down coming through mid-November there. Now this is looking at total snow here. This is for the next 10 days on the European deterministic. You can see pretty good amounts still coming up here. Even if we don't get that cold, the mountains are probably going to be adding to the snowpack quite nicely here. You see North Cascades here in BC, really big winners here, but some good amounts all the way down through the Oregon Cascades as well. And again, 10-day totals coming up here. Look at this across the areas of Idaho, western Montana, Yellowstone, getting some good snowfall amounts. Kind of leaves the valley here through Idaho out a bit more than it did. But again, the deterministic yesterday afternoon was fairly warm. We'll see if that changes on today's run. This is snow depth in inches, so let's watch this. You can see as the atmospheric rivers, you can see it kind of eat away at some of that low-level snowpack as we go through the next few days here as these couple fairly warm atmospheric rivers roll through the area. But don't worry, we'll build it back as we go this year. And here's for places out east. You can see that kind of get eaten away as this little bit of warmer air comes up with these next couple of systems through the area. Now, taking a look here, this is precipitable water. We're looking at the Pacific Ocean. There's Hawaii. There's Japan out here. Here's China and Taiwan, Washington, Oregon, California. First system rolls through our area up here. Look at this narrow little atmospheric river, maybe category 1 for some areas. And then the next one is more juicy, as you can plainly see here as we go through Saturday night into Sunday, pointed right at Washington State and Southwest BC there. Then weekends, kicks out of our area here, and then maybe another one as we go through next week as well. So it's kind of the never-ending storm train here for the Pacific Northwest. This is the landslide monitoring site. Nothing to worry about yet. Once these markers start to get above this red line here, then we start to get concerned about landslides in this metro area, Seattle, Everett, Seattle, Tacoma. If anybody knows of one that's like this, that's for Portland or for British Columbia, I'd love to see it too. Maybe I'll do a little bit of searching on Google later for that. 6 to 10 day. No surprise there. Precipitation amounts, we may start to turn colder, so they probably put a little bit of a lower percentage there for above average precip, but still a good signal. We're in our rainy period already, so any signal for above is pretty wet here for the Pacific Northwest. 8 to 10 day again, and 8 to 10 to 14 day precipitation outlook through early November is still above average. Now, taking a look here, this is for coming up for this system today and then the Sunday system there. You can look on the Washington coast there. They both classify for category 2 atmospheric rivers. This one goes just about 24 hours over 500, so just qualifies here, the first system. The second system is B here, and that qualifies as well, over 24 hours and over 500 on the vapor transport here. See, nothing to be afraid of. Atmospheric rivers, it's just a meteorological descriptor. Hopefully we can get everybody educated on these terms here, so you can see what it would take to get an AR5 or category 5 atmospheric river here. You really need to start going up over 48 hours with some pretty good vapor transport, which starts to bring big precipitation amounts. And these can be damaging and destructive once you start getting later in the season. You really start to melt the snow, or your rivers are already running high and everything's saturated. So this is for the Washington coast. You can kind of see how it varies up and down the coastline. It's not the same for everybody. You can't just call a system a category 1 or a category 2. You have to pinpoint which area you're talking about when you're dealing with these atmospheric rivers. Now, taking a look here, this is for the foothills of southern Washington Cascades here. The first one doesn't even qualify for an atmospheric river there. You can see it. It does not maintain 24 hours, does not get above 500 on the vapor transport. The second one here, A, does 24 hours, 500. You can see it plainly right there. Now, you can change this too and move this around to different areas. It's a really cool site here, the Center for Western Weather and Water Extremes. As we go up north a bit here, let's go a little bit further south. That's the Bolt Creek Fire here. First one is not an atmospheric river. The second one does qualify here, and some of the ensembles show it might hit category 2. So that's what we're concerned about with the flash flooding there, or maybe not even flash flooding there on the burn scar areas, just some flooding concerns. You can see it reaches Cat 1 just over 24 hours, but still not that strong a vapor transport into the area here. So just thought I'd show you guys that atmospheric rivers. We need to get the general public associated and familiar with this term. It is not supposed to be a scare tactic. It's not something the media just made up. It is a legit meteorological term used by meteorologists. It's just a descriptor. So anyway, there's a lot of drama about that going on. So excuse me if I went on a little bit of a rant tangent there anyway. But yeah, you can see our active weather is going to continue. We have the potential to turn colder as we get towards early November and build up the snowpack, and maybe some fantasy snowfall scenarios coming as we move into later into November here. Who knows? We'll just continue to watch that day by day, but nothing looks imminent at this point. We're just going to nicely put an end to some of our severe drought across western Washington and the coastline too. And I imagine if they put the classification out, some of that severe drought would exist up towards BC as well. But again, that's going to get wiped out really quick here, probably as early as Sunday with all this precipitation coming down. Continue to click like and subscribe. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't. Turn on notifications. It really helps the channel. It gets the algorithm going across YouTube. And so we'll take a look at everything tomorrow. And I hope you guys are having a good day. I'll talk to you then.